The movie starts with a young man entering a vacated house. He is surprised to see another man named Franklin inside the house as well. The young man confronts Franklin that he doesn't want to continue doing the business of flipping houses with him anymore, because the HGTV flipping boom has gone. The filler cheeked-up man tries to convince the young man otherwise, but the kid has already made up his mind. As the young man is about to leave the house, Franklin hits his head with a hammer, quickly ending his life. The story jumps to another young man named John Link who just arrived in the neighborhood. He looks around the neighborhood and a girl named Katie Foreman immediately catches his attention. John stalks Katie to her school and watches her closely, but since he's fine, stalking is okay. On the school grounds, Katie uses a vape and meets up with her best friend named Sam. A teacher passes by and sees Katie using the vape and calls her out. The teacher reports Katie to Principal Perkins, and the principal suspends Katie from school for the day. Perkins went from Lifetime to starring in Tyler Perry's Beauty in Black, started from the bottom and still literally a bottom boy in Beauty in Black. A police officer named Detective Harper interrupts the conversation. Katie's mom, named Lori, reveals that she and Detective Harper know each other because she works as a court reporter. Damn, Vivica a Fox just out here trying to pay her bills. On the way home, Lori scolds Katie and tells her that what she did was humiliating, and because of that, she's also grounded. Later that night, Sam comes over and Katie and her drink alcohol. Samantha's boyfriend Aaron picks her up later that night. When they leave, Katie hears a noise coming from the house across the street, and she decides to check it. Katie sees John working out without any shirt on, which immediately attracts her attention. And because Katie is hot, this isn't weird. Katie leaves before John sees her peeping. The next day, before Lori leaves for work, she scolds Katie for being a dumb Oz since she's failing school. After Katie peeps at John, who's trimming the bushes, John takes his shirt off and sees Katie looking at him. John goes over and they flirt. The two get to know each other and John tells her that he is the grandson of the old lady living across the street who just died last week, and he's renovating his grandmother's house and selling it after. John tells Katie that he graduated high school from St. Patrick's last year, and he's taking 1 year off before going to college. Eventually, John and Katie kiss each other, but he leaves after and steals Katie's house keys. Later that night, John enters Katie's house. He quietly roams around the house, but Lori notices that the door isn't locked and she closes it before going back to bed. Startled, John's IBS acts up and he leaves. The next day, Katie realizes she lost her keys, but she gotta leave for school. When Lori and Katie drive off, John watches them leave. Afterwards, John breaks into the house and sets up surveillance cameras in the living room, beside the staircase, and inside Katie's bedroom, then leaves. During class, Katie is caught by her teacher using her phone. The teacher tries to confiscate Katie's phone, but Katie over it and throws her phone at the teacher, hitting the teacher's head, and everyone in the room is gagged. Principal Perkins and Detective Harper talk to Lori about the incident. Katie is on house arrest for 1 month. Katie won't be able to leave her house, and a tutor will be assigned to her so she can keep up with her studies. Lori goes full Karen, saying she finna get her lawyers involved. However, Harper changes Lori's mind. Back at their house, Lori relays what's going to happen to Katie, saying she has to wear a special Fitbit band on her ankle for a while. Detective Harper arrives and puts an ankle monitor on Katie, which will set an alarm if she tries to leave their property. If Katie leaves their property, the monitor will alarm, and she has 60 seconds to go back to their house. Otherwise, police will be notified. The three of them go outside to demonstrate the ankle monitor, and the monitor starts to alarm as soon as Katie steps a foot outside their property. After Katie goes back in the house, Lori admits that Katie's father died last year, hence her rebellious acts. When Lori leaves the house for work, John visits Katie to check on her. Katie spills the tea to John. John laughs about it and tells Katie that what she did is nothing compared to all the things he has already done. Katie is a little gagged and creeped out. John tells Katie that he needs to go because he is meeting someone later at his grandmother's house. Later that night, John watches Katie sleep through the camera that he had set up. The next day, the school-appointed tutor named Miss Hester visits Katie at her house. During their session, Katie daydreams of John working out. Miss Hester calls her out for not paying attention to her, and she scolds Katie about it. John watches and hears how Miss Hester scolds Katie through his surveillance camera. John sees Miss Hester leaving Katie's house, and he also sees Sam arriving to visit Katie. Inside Katie's house, Sam checks on how she's doing with her house arrest situation. Katie tells Sam about John. Sam is supportive of Katie, but tells her to be careful around John because he's still a stranger. They see Aaron waiting outside Katie's house. John arrives and asks Aaron what he is doing outside Katie's house. Aaron tells John that it's none of his business. John threatens Aaron, and so the bitch boy leaves. Later that day, Lori asks Katie about her day. Katie tells her mom that she doesn't like her tutor. She also tells her about John. Lori tells Katie that she finds it weird because she recalls that the old woman has told her in the past that she never had children. John hears the whole conversation through the surveillance camera. Later that night, Katie tries looking up John Link on the internet, but the search results do not give her anything. While doing so, she sees John and Franklin having a huge argument in the house across the street. John and Franklin are arguing over how risky it is for John to make new friends in the neighborhood, as it draws suspicion on their house-flipping business. Franklin leaves as Katie watches from inside her room. The next day, John pays Katie a visit, and they swap herpes. Katie stops the sensual session and tells John that Lori isn't happy about him entering their house. John slips and tells Katie that he already knows about it, and Katie becomes confused. Katie also confronts John about how the old lady across the street didn't have any children. John convinces her that it may be because her grandmother doesn't want everybody to know about her family. John excuses himself to the bathroom and leaves his phone on the couch. His phone starts ringing, and Katie nosy AF. Katie sees a message from Franklin asking where John is. John comes back and gets angry at Katie for being snoopy. He switches his mood, then kisses her and leaves. Katie is obviously worried. Later that day, Sam tells Katie about John threatening Aaron, but because Katie wants to be banged, she ignores the red flags. The next day, Katie uses Lori's credit card to purchase a pair of binoculars on the internet. The following day, Sam goes to St. Patrick's, the school where John claimed he went to for high school. Sam asks for info on John Link. The admin tells Sam that giving out student information is not allowed. Feeling defeated, Sam leaves, but she is interrupted by two students who overheard her question. The girls show Sam a yearbook with John's face to prove that he really went to St. Patrick's. The girls warn Sam about John because John tends to become possessive and dangerous. Sam leaves and she takes the yearbook with her. Sam goes to Katie and tells her everything. Later that night, John is watching Katie sleep. The next morning, John delivers a package to Katie and asks if he can come in. Katie declines and tells him that she's got a lot of homework to do and fingering to do. John does not buy it, but he still leaves. Katie opens the package of binoculars. Miss Hester visits Katie for another session and scolds her about how she does not make an effort to study the courses she is teaching. John monitors their conversation through his phone. Miss Hester leaves Katie's house and gets into her car. Once she's inside, John strangles her from behind and she sees his hot bod, then says, "Choke me, Zaddy," before dying. The next day, Katie uses her binoculars and she's able to see the passcode for John's front door. Katie waits for John to leave the house, and she sets the timer on her phone to 1 minute, as this is the timer before her ankle monitor sends a signal to the police station. She quickly rushes to John's house to try the passcode, and it works. She comes inside, but eventually chooses to lock the door again and goes back to her house. The timer reaches 0 and her ankle monitor goes off. Katie runs inside her house's perimeter. Detective Harper immediately visits Katie due to the ankle monitor alarming them. She sees Katie doing some gardening outside. Katie plays pretend and tells Detective Harper that she must have stepped outside the perimeter too long. The detective buys it and leaves. John talks to Katie and asks her if she's been ghosting him. Katie confronts John that they don't have anything. John tells Katie that he already took care of Katie's tutor because she's a hindrance in their relationship. Katie tells him that she doesn't want him anymore because he cannot be honest with her. Then she tells John to never talk to her again. The next day, Franklin arrives at the house with a prospective buyer, but they see John sleeping and the house not ready for viewing at all. The buyer is disappointed and leaves the house. Franklin confronts John about what's happening to him, and John tells him that Katie doesn't want him anymore. Franklin threatens John that if he wants to leave their partnership, he will throw him under the bus. John gets mad and hits Franklin with a hammer on the head, ending his life. Franklin did always wanted to get nailed, just not like this. Katie and Sam devise a plan to sneak into John's house to get evidence. They see John leaving, and Sam runs to his house. She enters the front door and video calls with Katie once she's inside. Sam roams around the house as Katie watches through the video call. Sam enters the bedroom and she sees Franklin's body underneath the bedsheet. At the same time, John comes back home and Katie warns Sam that she needs to escape. Sam says that she has no way out and quietly hides behind the bed. John checks the house but decides not to check the bedroom. John leaves again and Sam makes her way out and back to Katie. Later that day, Detective Harper visits John's house and tells him that she received a complaint from his neighbors about screaming coming from his house. John denies the detective's claim. The detective asks to take a look around and John agrees. Detective Harper checks to look for anything suspicious. She checks the bedroom. She doesn't see a body underneath the sheets. Instead, she sees a mannequin. It's giving Dahmer. Detective Harper reports back to Katie and Sam that she didn't see a body, but she saw a blow-up doll instead. Katie and Sam are both shocked. Katie also says that her tutor might have been John's victim as well, and she walks away. Lori convinces Detective Harper that Katie isn't the type of girl to make up lies. Detective Harper says that she will look further into this issue. Later that night, Katie is awakened by her phone ringing. She sees a phone call coming from her mom, and she quickly answers. She hears John's voice on the other end. Lori screams and asks Katie to call the police immediately. John tells Katie not to call the police, and asks her to go to meet him at her school within 10 minutes. Katie arrives and sees John holding a knife. John tells Katie that he ended the life of Katie's tutor and his business partner because they were both hindrances to their relationship. Now John wants to end Lori's life because she's getting in his way too. Katie tells John to meet her where they first saw each other. Katie runs away and asks John to follow him. John leaves Lori, but not before threatening her to stay put. John meets Katie outside the hallway, and John confesses his love for Katie. After a few moments, they hear police sirens in the distance. John asks Katie if she called the cops, but Katie says that she doesn't need to call the cops and shows her ankle monitor. John tells Katie that they will see each other again soon. Katie slaps John, and John runs away. Katie runs back to Lori and unties her. Sam and Detective Harper arrive at the school. Detective Harper reassures her that John won't be bothering her again, as they have his picture scattered across all police stations. Katie blames herself for everything, but Detective Harper commends Katie for being brave. Detective Harper tells them that John is the wrong boy next door, and they all take a sigh of relief. Well, that was certainly a movie of all time. I'm disappointed they never elaborated on the house flipping scheme, because I need ideas on a side hustle. What did you guys think of this one?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.